Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Battle of Gettysburg in the upcoming game Grand Tactician, the Civil War. We've played this a bit on the channel. We've started a campaign as the Union, and we've also played through some of the tactical battles in this game, but we're going to be doing something a little bit different compared to at least what I've been covering in the past, and we're going to be looking at a game or a battle from the Confederate perspective. So I think I've only played as the Union so far in this game, and instead I'm going to take on the reins of the Confederate Army at the Battle of Gettysburg. So we've fought a fair number of battles that have been somewhat lopsided. Most of the battles in the Union campaign, we brought to bear a lot more troops than the Confederates had opposing us. In the tactical battles that I fought so far in the game, I've fought like the Battle of Antietam, which the Union has a massive advantage in terms of manpower. Perryville, the Union also had a very large advantage in terms of manpower. So I haven't really fought a lot of evenly matched battles yet. And I think Gettysburg should be an interesting challenge. I like the way that the game allows you to maneuver for the enemy flank. Sometimes it almost seems a little bit too easy to outflank the enemy. I think Gettysburg is going to give us really an opportunity to do that, to have a good amount of maneuver, but also to have constant enemy reserves sort of coming up and things we have to deal with as the battle sort of ebbs and flows, especially early on in the first day's fight. So I did want to go ahead and give the Battle of Gettysburg a look in Grand Tactician, the Civil War. This is a game that is going to be entering early access on August 21st. It will be available on Steam. It is developed by Oliver Keppelmuller, and it is in partnership with Lionheart Filmworks, who does all of sort of the reenactment footage that you see sort of in the background of the menu screens and other things like that. We are going to be playing as a Confederacy. We're not going to give any bonuses to either side. You can see the Battle of Gettysburg has the Union with 93,000 men versus 70,000 Confederates, 340 Union guns versus 280 Confederates, 10,000 Union cavalry versus 6,000 Confederates, although the 6,000 Confederate cavalry does not show up basically until the end of the battle. And casualties, my recollection of Gettysburg was 20,000 Union, 25,000 Confederate casualties, but I also thought the Confederates had 75,000 men instead of 70. This has casualties pretty even on both sides at 23 apiece and a Union victory. So we'll see. I was playing a Union campaign. Unfortunately, the save for that campaign was corrupted, so the last video that we saw will be our last. I sent the save over to the developer, who identified a bug from the save. Apparently, there was some issue with the way that some of the siege battles were being resolved simultaneously to the tactical battle that I fought when the game froze and crashed. So he fixed the bug, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to save the save file. So we'll probably start another campaign before too long. I'm not sure exactly what that will be, but I wanted to fight the Battle of Gettysburg before we did that. I was debating doing a Confederate Let's Play, but I got some feedback from some folks that everybody right now is running Confederate Let's Plays. History Guy Gamer, I think XTRG, a couple other YouTubers are all running Confederate campaigns right now. No one's really running the Union campaign. I just feel like the Confederate campaign at this stage of the game, when the AI is still a little bit early in development, that a Confederate campaign is a little bit more interesting, because the AI is not great at the strategic side of things or building armies or things like that. And in the 1862 campaign, the AI already has double your troops, so it'll be a little bit more of a challenge than fighting against an AI like where I was playing in the two battles I played in my campaign before it crashed. I outnumbered the Confederates almost 2-1 in both cases. They were interesting battles to watch, but I don't know how challenging they really were. And so that's one of the reasons I'm playing Gettysburg tonight. So let's go ahead and jump in. Never mind, General. All this has been my fault. It is I that have lost this fight, and you must help me out of it in the best way you can. General Robert E. Lee to General Wilcox after the failure of Pickett's charge at the Battle of Gettysburg on July 3rd, 1863. All right, and we're loaded in here. You can see here Lieutenant General Ewell is receiving orders from Lee. I wrote to you last night stating that General Hooker was reported to have crossed the Potomac and is advancing by way of Middletown. The head of his columns begin at the point in Frederick County. I desire you to move in the direction of Gettysburg via Hildersburg, and you can thus join your other divisions to Early's, which is east of the mountains. Signed, Robert E. Lee. Objectives of the Army of Northern Virginia. General Hooker in the Army of the Potomac has crossed the Potomac. Contact with General Stuart's cavalry is currently lost. General Pettigrew says he saw Union cavalry arriving south of the town of Gettysburg. General Hill has ordered a reconnaissance in that direction. A general engagement must be avoided until the whole army is successfully concentrated. The army is in good spirits, and once deployed will attack and destroy the Army of the Potomac. General Robert E. Lee. You can see here that the forces arrayed in this battle, the Confederacy's troops are in 90% condition. The Federal troops are in much better condition, which I think is an interesting interpretation by this game, because the Federal troops are coming up on forced marches of 20-plus miles a day for some of the units. They're going to be exhausted. They're going to be strung out. So to give them such strong conditions, I don't know why they'd be better off than the Confederates, who are not marching those forced marches. Now, the Confederacy does have inferior provisions, only 39. The Union has much better provisions, but the Confederates are foraging right now and should have pretty good forage numbers. I think the game sort of undervalues both of those. Small arms and guns quality makes sense to give the Union the edge, especially much closer to their own line of supply. Meanwhile, you can see on July 1st, 1863, it is telling us that the total forces arrayed in this battle, 57,237 Confederate infantry against 94,000 Union infantry. That is a huge discrepancy there between the two. Cavalry 6,000 to 15,000, artillery 4,000 to 6,500. Those numbers feel a little bit off. It also doesn't match up with the aggregate last returns, which were 7,200 versus 8,500. So I don't know if this is just supposed to represent some sort of fog of war, but those numbers don't seem very accurate at all. Those Union numbers seem massively inflated. So I would guess perhaps that is reflecting the fog of war. Meanwhile, the commanders arrayed in this battle, you've got General Robert E. Lee, 70 fame, 98 leadership, 98 initiative, 78 administration, 78 cunning, the best officer on the field. General George Gordon Meade is the number 3 ranked commander on the field, apparently. Fame is only 30, which makes sense. He's not anywhere near as famous as Lee at this point. He never really would be, but his leadership is 67, which is pretty strong. He was a good leader. I think he was a good commander. His initiative is 45, which probably is intended to represent the fact that he's not going to be overly aggressive in this campaign. He's only been in command of the army for a couple of days at the time of the Battle of Gettysburg. So he did some things that are a little bit uncharacteristic, like holding conferences of war, which by this point in the war was pretty rare and was usually seen as a negative. But he's also brand new to command of the army, and so seeking out the thoughts of his subordinates makes a lot of sense as he's trying to get a feel of the army. His administrative skills are 65 versus 78. He was a good administrator. He was perhaps a general a little bit ahead of his time. Unlike most generals in this period of time, he would actually write up hypothetical orders. So he would write up sort of general orders around a concept. So, for example, he wrote up the Pipe Creek circular defensive concept. That never came into fruition, but it sort of illustrated his thinking on how the army would defend the Pipe Creek line. He also wrote up hypothetical orders in the event that the Union Army would withdraw from Gettysburg. He had already thought of where it would withdraw to, and had orders ready to that effect if he would go ahead and initiate them. So in many ways, he was a modern general compared to a lot of these other officers who would issue orders a little bit more on the fly or as they made decisions. He would have alternative options, basically war plans that he could go in and execute to some extent in terms of how he would operate. Not always, but that is one thing that I think stood him in a different light, is that he would prepare those types of orders ahead of time. His cunning is only 29, which I guess he wasn't the most sort of inventive attacker ever, so I think that makes some sense. If we go ahead and take a look at all these things, so we've got some other objectives up here on the top left. Our objective is to take McPherson's Ridge. We currently do not have it. We also want to touch the Cashtown Road, which I believe already have Hill on the Cashtown Road right here. We want to touch the Fairfield Road, which is somewhere. Oh, that's down here in the south. We also want to take Oak Hill, which is up here in the north of McPherson's Ridge, and we want to take Hare Ridge, which is over here where the Union cavalry is going to be deployed. So those are our objectives. There are just 5 objectives, at least on day 1 of the Battle of Gettysburg. I don't know if things will change on day 2 and day 3, where we've got the Little Round Top and Cemetery Ridge line that we hopefully will drive toward. As you can see here, it is 6:30 in the morning on July 1st, 1863. We have a couple of units that are currently in position. You've got this gorgeous topographical map of Gettysburg. It looks like it came almost right out of something like Sid Meier's Gettysburg, which had those great topographical briefing screen maps. Let's go ahead and zoom in on our units and see what we all have to play with right now. Looks like we've got Heath's division in position here, about 7,200 men. It's a new division under General A.P. Hill's corps. 7,200 of Hill's 21,000 men are currently on the field. The other 14,000 will arrive in due course. And apparently Lee is also on the field. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but you've got Lee on the field over here. So we've got Heath's division coming online, and we probably just want to push for Hare Ridge, right? That's the objective that we can reach most easily. That's where the Union cavalry is going to be located. It'll be difficult for us to easily flank them, but I think that's what we want to do. We should have more infantry than they have cavalry, so we'll see about doing that. You can see here the morale is determined, his cohesion is intact, training is good, and the status of his troops is marching, although I don't really see anybody marching at the moment. You can see these dark red lines represent good, strong chains of command between all of these officers currently on the field. I don't even see any artillery currently. Looks like we've got one battery of artillery up here under Heath's division. We've got one battery of artillery and 4 infantry brigades by the look of it. I don't see any additional reserves under Lee himself. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's move Heath down toward Hare Ridge. We'll just go kind of with more of a frontal assault, I think. So actually, it looks like 2 of the brigades are going to take this road here, which will be more frontal. The other brigades are going to take the Chambersburg Pike and then swing down south as they get into position here to take. All right, we'll just move it up here. I mean, I know there's probably going to be Yankees on that ridge, although it's not blue yet, so they may not be there quite yet. So let's go ahead and unpause the game. We'll get our troops in motion. They should be issued orders pretty much right away because of how close Lee is and how close Hill is. And you can see the troops are already in motion here. Or at least starting to get into formation. Okay, so we're going to fast forward a little bit as those troops start to move. We'll see if we can get up to Hare's Ridge. I wonder if I have to keep troops on. It says we have to touch this road. So does that mean we have to maintain contact with the road, or does that mean that as you know, the last unit to touch it holds it? I'm not sure. If we go up here on the top left, we can see the Cashtown Road is taken. That's the log entry. And you can see at least Breckenborough's brigade is marching along the Chambersburg Pike. Pettigrew and Archer are both using this sort of more southerly route to get to Hare Ridge. McPherson's Ridge, meanwhile, looks like it's been taken by rebel cavalry, presumably, because it's turned blue. And Hill and Lee are both moving forward to stay in good contact with their division commander Heath, seeing as he's the only rebel formation on the field. You can see we're going to be getting reinforcements all along the edge of this map here, represented by these exit points or entry points on the map, these little red double arrows, if you will. You can enter or exit the map at those locations for the Confederates. The Union reinforcements are going to be coming up down here near 2 taverns. They're also going to be coming up down here near Plum Run, and then some will be coming up the Emmetsburg Road as well. So we'll move for Hare's Ridge. It's approaching 7 o'clock. Still no contact with the enemy. We'll speed things up a little bit more. So no enemy cavalry made it onto Hare's Ridge, which is a little bit different than history. Lee's moving north toward the unfinished railroad all by himself out there. Hopefully he doesn't get himself exposed and shot at. Although he's starting to come south now to join Hare. Okay, so we took that ridge. I'm going to move these troops up toward Hare's Tavern for an assault, presumably on McPherson's Ridge. So we're currently arrayed in a double line formation. You can see this option down here has Heath deploying his division in double line. We could do in successive lines, or we could even do a single line. I'm actually going to do that. Let's switch that over into single line. I think with only a lone division, it would be more interesting to deploy our troops in a single line. Although it doesn't look like it's changing the deployment here. Meanwhile, we can see we've got Devon and Gamble's brigades, 2 brigades of cavalry under John Buford. Both are there. Meanwhile, I think I just got some artillery, or no, that was the artillery we already had. Let's pause here for a second. So what's that latest objective? Probably just telling us we took Hare Ridge. Yep, Hare Ridge is taken. All right, so we've taken 2 objectives. That's swinging the victory meter slightly more to the Confederacy. And then we're going to assault McPherson's Ridge here momentarily with Heath's division. We're going to allow Heath to get into position near Hare's Tavern. We're going to have the artillery deploy there as well prior to making the assault on McPherson's Ridge and McPherson's Farm. We've got some enemy artillery, so the battle is begun. You can see enemy artillery is firing at our troops here. A round just exploded in the wood line here. All right, so Heath's division is failing their cohesion, but hopefully they get into position here soon. The artillery's coming up. We should be in a position to return fire there. You can see the enemy cavalry mounted up on McPherson's Ridge. We've got the 1st Brigade and the 2nd Brigade. Enemy artillery's coming in. We've taken our first casualties here. It looks like we took 3 casualties in Heath's division so far. Our own artillery is still moving into position. We're up to 5 casualties from the enemy artillery. Okay. I love those air bursts. Other games do it. Scourge of War, for example. But they do look pretty nice. All right, our troops are hiding in that cornfield. We've taken 6 casualties now. Not very many. We've got 2 more items here. Von Steinwehr and Howard are arriving. 9,000 infantry under Howard. It's not even 9 o'clock yet. Where are these infantry coming up? They're way far south? Still, we've only seen Devon and Gamble on McPherson's Ridge. Now, here's the thing. We could wait for the enemy. We could wait for our reinforcements to launch a more cohesive attack. But I think I'm just going to go for it now. So I'm going to go ahead. I want to leave this artillery in position and have it attack. So I need to detach it, I think, from the rest of the division. So we just did that. We chose to detach it from the rest of the division. That should, I believe, allow me to move the infantry brigades without moving the cavalry or the artillery. Now, I would think they wouldn't have a good line of sight with these trees between them, but I'm not sure if maybe that just doesn't, the game doesn't reflect that very well. All right, so the artillery has gotten the order. We'll go ahead and move the infantry forward. And you can see they're moving forward in a single line here. So we're just going to move straight up the ridge, right at this enemy cavalry. And you can see the artillery is no longer going to deploy with us because we have detached them from the division. Von Steinwehr arrives, 3,000 infantry, 5 guns. That's a division under Howard. I would expect Reynolds' troops to be the ones arriving. Meanwhile, you can see our infantry is starting to move. The artillery apparently isn't moving, but elsewhere. Why wouldn't you just stay on the road here? I would think that would be the better spot for you. Okay. Pettigrew's brigade's moving. Heath's entire division is moving forward here. I feel like Heath is a division commander in the Confederate Army that I know so little about, right? Like, you know, he participated in the Battle of Gettysburg, but he's not like one of these flashy commanders that you hear about being in a bunch of other battles. Like Early, for example, was in a ton of other battles, or other commanders were in a ton of other battles, and when there were division commanders, like you had already heard their name a whole bunch in the war. I feel like Heath is a little bit of an unknown. Okay, so you can see Heath's division is coming forward in column formation down this road toward McPherson's Ridge under artillery fire. Here they come, boys. Or here they go. Moving forward here, these enemy cavalry are still mounted up. Our own artillery firing. You know, it gives us our losses. I wish it gave me, like, right here in front, like, how many casualties the battery had inflicted. So we're going to go with mostly a frontal assault through these cornfields. Go ahead and fast forward a little bit. Sounded like some windows just broke from an artillery shot. So we're losing a couple of casualties. Still nothing really to write home about. A total of 9 casualties so far out of over 7,000 men. That was a nice shot there. Is this Lee? Yeah. Okay. All right, so Heath's division is moving forward here, taking a few more casualties with the artillery as they approach. Should be moving in here real close. Almost into musketry range. According to the game, we have taken McPherson's Ridge. Okay, so we're going to move this way. We're going to try and turn the Federal artillery's flank a little bit. We're going to put 2 brigades up on the northern edge here to go after this enemy artillery. We haven't seen any enemy infantry yet. We do have intelligence about enemy infantry, but we haven't actually seen any. The enemy cavalry has opened up on us. You can see they've dismounted as we're moving our troops forward, and the casualties are rapidly escalating. 160 casualties already in the first couple of volleys here against us. We're going to move forward the Pettigrew's brigade in the south here. Because of the way our line is formed up, it is not in a good position to lend its 2,500 muskets to the cause. So we'll order him separately to move forward here. The primary brigade engaged right now is Davis's brigade. They're losing 140 casualties. Meanwhile, McPherson's Ridge. Okay, so that's just updates on the situation there. Robinson arrives. Division of Robinson's troops. I think those are more Union troops arriving. McPherson's Ridge. We already saw that. Do I have to like manually click open all these, or is there a way to like mass read them all? Alright. So you can see here we're engaging here. We've got Davis's brigades taking about 200 casualties. Archer's brigade's moving up to the north. They're going to swing south, and they're getting into action against the enemy artillery. We'll swing Heath's brigade in and around to try and get in around the Federal flank. Meanwhile, Pettigrew is also engaged now against, what are these, Federal infantry? Doesn't really tell me who these guys are. Oh, no, they're cavalry. They've got horses behind them. Oh, Pettigrew's not engaged. He's still getting into position. Let's bring our artillery forward here to provide a little bit more close-in support. Meanwhile, you can see here we're engaging the 1st Brigade very heavily. I wish you'd stop marching. Stop eating fire. Just engage. You're already in close range. The enemy artillery appears to have either been driven back or fallen back. Just a little bit. Meanwhile, we're having Heath open up here at point-blank range. So we've got 2 brigades. We've got Archer's brigade, which has only lost 6 men, and we've got Heath's brigade, which has lost about 120 men. Both opening up at point-blank range against this Federal cavalry. Davis's brigade is engaging the 2nd Brigade of Federal cavalry here. They've lost about 266 men, but they've got Pettigrew's brigade in support, which is firing 2,500 muskets here into these Federal troops. The Federals are laying down, so they're losing a little bit less in the way of casualties. But so far, we've got 2 brigades roughly right where we want them. I haven't seen the additional infantry coming up here. You can see Pleasanton and Buford are both on the field here. I don't think Pleasanton was actually on the field at this point in the battle. I think it was just Buford. But you can see here our 2 brigades up north engaging these Federal cav. Most of the Federals seem to be shooting at Heath's brigade, giving archers 1,100 men free rein on shooting at these guys. They're a little bit clumped together. It looks like reserves are coming forward from holding the mounts. But this might classify as a general engagement. Bobby Lee might not be happy. The artillery, meanwhile, we've brought them up just across the creek here at the edge of McPherson's farm, I guess, and they're firing artillery over the head of them Confederate troops of ours. They've lost no men so far, Garnett's battalion of artillery. They've got 42 rounds of something, 59 rounds of something else. Doesn't really tell me there. And 16 rounds, I'm guessing the last one's a canister. You can see here, still continuing. This is a bit of a bloodbath, I think, for the Federal cavalry here. I have to imagine. I mean, it says they're laying down, but yep. Okay, so we routed the 1st Brigade there. You can see their color turned to red, and they're running. They're trying to mount back up on their horse, but they're caught in a crossfire from 2 rebel brigades firing right into them. You can see a lot of their horses are falling. They're losing a lot of men in that retreat. The other brigade is also retreating here. These guys are hopefully done for the day. So I would think that'll give us McPherson's Ridge, although it doesn't say we have it right now. We'll move the artillery up on top of the ridge. And then we'll have Heath continue pressing. So I think, actually, I kind of want to send a regiment north here to deal with Oak Hill. But we've driven them back. We've got Federal infantry on the way up. So actually, let's do this. Let's move Pettigrew's brigade into this wood line here for some good cover to deal with the Federal infantry as they come up. We'll go ahead and move, we'll leave Davis's brigade on top of the ridge, and then we'll go ahead and we'll move Archer's brigade into the woods as well for some good terrain. Meanwhile, I'm going to send Heath's brigade, which lost a fair number of casualties, north here to take Oak Hill. Meanwhile, the artillery's coming up, and it's going to position itself right on top of McPherson's Ridge. So with these Federal infantry coming up, I don't have another objective to push to right away, so I think we'll hold in position here. We'll let Meredith's Iron Brigade come forward against us. You can see the Iron Brigade's down here. Meredith is the commander. You can see he's detached some skirmishers to move forward. Davis is shattered. Gamble is shattered. So we've got the Iron Brigade and the 2nd Brigade. Is that Cutler's Brigade? So we've got Cutler and the Iron Brigade coming forward. We've got some of our own troops skirmishing here. Archer's Brigade's moving into the woods. The artillery's coming up here on top of this ridge. Heavy engagement. Pettigrew's a good brigade to try and hold off the Iron Brigade because they've got decent experience, they're well-trained, and they've got 2,500 muskets. The Iron Brigade's a crack outfit, but they don't have a ton of men. They're a little bit bloodied. They're just engaging with the enemy skirmishers at this point, though. There's quite a few skirmishers detached, though. I'm hoping the terrain he's in is good enough to provide him some good cover, though, so he doesn't take too many casualties. Meanwhile, that one regiment's detached and heading up to Oak Hill. You can see Wadsworth Division is forming up down here. I'm hoping that Buford's division is shattered and won't be coming back. I can send skirmishers out. I don't know how to do it. I think there's an option in here. Yeah, so I can issue order for skirmishers right here. But I think we'll keep our boys where they are for the moment. I'm going to bring Davis up here. There's a bit of a gap on our line, so we'll bring Davis's brigade up here. As much as I'd rather have him on top of the ridge, I'll bring him down here into this field, and that'll kind of give us a better hold on Archer's brigade on the flank. And then Pettigrew's brigade over here. Pettigrew's losing a few casualties. He's got 50 rounds left of ammunition. Hey, potential starfish. How you doing? We'll bring these guys up here. Meanwhile, Oak Hill is taken. Alright, so Brockenborough can come down south now that he's taken that objective. The Federals, I don't think, will be able to really get past him unless they move through Gettysburg and around the flank up along this roadway, but I think that's unlikely. I think they'll stack up over here and probably push forward, if at all. They may not do that. They could also send some troops down toward Black House Tavern, or Black Horse Tavern. Trying to see what the other objectives are around here. It seems like we've gotten pretty much all the July 1st objectives. I'm surprised it doesn't have Cemetery Ridge or Culp's Hill as objectives. That seems weird. Maybe that'll change. In any event, Lee, your boys are doing well. Heath has lost about 600 men, so he's lost almost 10% of his troops. You can see we're now dealing with 2 formations of enemy skirmishers. I'm going to send Archer's Brigade down here as well to deal with them. We'll try and see if we can't flank these guys out of their position. I don't know if there's other... We did see reports of additional enemy brigades of troops arriving, but all we've seen so far is Wadsworth's division. With 2 divisions sitting well back and two brigades sitting well back and elements of 2 skirmishers here to our front. These skirmishers look like they're ready to rout. They're flashing red. They've taken 113 casualties, so our brigade is doing a good job despite the fact that these guys are a little bit spread out. Pender has arrived, and so is Walker, so we've got 2 additional brigades. Meanwhile, accordingly, Doubleday has arrived as well. Garnett is in contact. That's the artillery battalion, I think. It's from a while ago. Alright, so we've got reinforcements which have arrived. Pender's brigade or division is coming up. I'm going to bring him down to the Fairfield Road, because what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to have him swing up the Fairfield Road on the flank of Wadsworth and see if we can't eject this division while also taking that last objective. Meanwhile, Meade appears to be on the field. I think the Army commander always has to be on the field, though. He historically was not at this point. He didn't arrive till late in the day of the first day's fight. We've got our artillery firing there. You can see artillery firing at the enemy skirmishers. We did drive back some of the skirmishers of the Iron Brigade there. You can see it's just 1 detachment now. You know what? Screw it. Let's go for it. Pettigrew, move your boys forward here. We're going to push these guys back. Alright, so we're going to use Heath to guard the flank as we push south into this open field near south of McPherson's Ridge. We've spotted no additional enemy troops so far. Heath's division might be sufficient. Gamertown. Alright, Pettigrew. Move forward in good line. Good formation there. Let's whip these boys. Alright, they're reforming. Yeah, I imagine 2 big volleys from over 3,000 muskets might be enough to drive these skirmishers back. Archer's Brigade's going to come up as well. Now, the only bad thing is this is pretty much a stand-up fight right in the open. You can see they're falling back a bit there. Archer's Brigade hasn't lost much in the way of casualties, but they've got 2 enemy brigades focused on them, so they're definitely going to lose some now. But we're moving Davis right down to support. We'll also move Pettigrew in on the flank. And so we've got Archer sort of fixing them in the front, with then Pettigrew coming in on the flank. At least that's the idea here. Casualties are rapidly mounting for Archer, from 12 to 38 to 40 plus in just a few moments. He's not a huge brigade. He probably can't take too much of that amount, that kind of fire. But with Davis's 1,700 and Pettigrew's 2,400, we've got over 4,000 muskets coming down, about to open up in support. And you know what? I think I'll bring Heath's brigade as well. I'm still not seeing any enemy. Now, they could definitely come up behind me as I push south here. Looks like the Federal cavalry might actually be rallying. I was hoping we drove them from the field. But they might be rallying over here. Or at least they've stopped their retreat. Okay, so Archer is taking about 100 casualties here. Davis is engaged, so is Pettigrew. And then we're going to bring Heath's brigade up on the enemy flank now. Hopefully we can push them back. We're inflicting heavy losses on them. I assume more on them than they on us. The 2nd Brigade has lost about 100 men. The Iron Brigade so far... Oh, they're an elite unit. I know that. The Iron Brigade has lost about 240 men, so about 10% of their brigade. Heavily outnumbered here. Heath is coming up into the rear of the enemy line. Point-blank range, too. Looks like Cutler's brigade is not being very well used by the AI here. They're just kind of sitting behind. They're engaged now, but they should have formed a line supporting the Iron Brigade. Not sure what our artillery's doing back there. Why are you pulling back? Why don't you stay on the ridge? Unless you know something that I don't know. Meanwhile, Pender's division is still coming up here. You can see them marching in column. We also have the 3rd Corps Artillery Reserve, which is going to come up here on Heath, or it's going to come up here on McPherson's Ridge, I think, in one large battery. I love the idea of the Artillery Reserve as its own sort of separate unit. Cavalry maybe just stopped retreating, but they haven't rallied. Okay. I hate though. This could be a user. I need a slower scroll speed, I think. Is Pettigrew still engaged? Doesn't look like he is. Let's shift him down a little bit. Put him a little bit closer. I wonder if the other brigade of Davis's brigade's in the way. It looks like the Iron Brigade may be falling back while firing. Have we seen any indication of enemy troops other than the ones we've seen? So if we can really, I mean, this is basically Lee's dream at this moment, is the idea of destroying the enemy in detail. You know, destroying individual units as they come up before they can take advantage of their numbers. Looks like the Iron Brigade is routed. They're running. Meanwhile, Cutler is in worse shape. His brigade is now taking fire from 3 sides. They've lost about 700, almost 800 men. The Iron Brigade, meanwhile, has lost about 700. They're still, they should have some fight left in them as an elite unit, but they are broken for now. And they're retreating south toward Black Horse Tavern. I do intend to send Pettigrew south along this roadway. It's not going to get him to the front as quickly as maybe I would like, but Heath's division seems to be in good enough shape that it doesn't need immediate assistance. It has lost about 1,000 casualties. That's not insignificant by any stretch. All right, so the other brigade is now broken as well. Not sure there's any coming back for Cutler's. I think we'll see the Iron Brigade rally, but Cutler's brigade has lost over 1,000 men. They're still taking fire as they retreat. Okay, so now what? The Federal troops are going to come up the Emmetsburg Road, or at least some of them, which is this road here. They could come up on our flank if I deploy into the town. So Seminary Ridge seems like the logical place until we get more troops to support a drive further east. So we'll put 2 brigades facing east on Seminary. We'll put Davis's brigade facing south and sort of refusing our line, and we'll put Pettigrew as well. Put Pettigrew on McPherson's down here since the enemy's retreating to the west along the Fairfield Road. They're retreating right to where we've ordered Pender to go as well. Meanwhile, I've ordered Walker to go over here. I'm not sure if he hasn't received the order yet, or if he's just taking his time executing it. He is a ways back, so it's going to take a while for Lee's orders to arrive. Where's Lee anyway? There he is. Actually, it doesn't even have Lee having any direct communication with that unit. Oh, shit, we got a bunch more units arriving. So it looks like we've got Rhodes's brigade is coming up. Oh, not Rhodes's brigade, sorry. Rhodes's division is coming up. And we can see Steinwehr and other Union elements. Actually, let's just put the whole Second Corps, or what we can of it anyway, into position here. That'll be a lot easier to issue that order. Lee's got a good hold on them. Meanwhile, Heath, you're going to redeploy east along Seminary Ridge, I think, to potentially hit the Union in the flank if the 11th Corps is going to deploy the way they did historically north of the town. It seems like a bad decision at this point in time, but we've routed at least one division of Reynolds' troops, the Iron Brigade and Cutler's Brigade. We've also routed Gibbon's division, or Buford's division. There should be one more division coming up under Reynolds. Hey, Untimely, thank you very much for the follow. So let's speed things up a little bit. We'll see what the enemy does. They may be going for Oak Hill as well. So actually, we'll redeploy Heath up here along Oak Ridge. Still not sure. There's got to be another brigade coming of Wadsworth's division. But I don't have any cavalry, so I can't see where they might be. Meanwhile, you can see enemy artillery's moving north. Looks like they are making a play for Oak Hill. And so we've got Ewell's Corps deploying south. At least they're supposed to be. Early's not moving yet, but he does have the orders. Meanwhile, Pender's going to swing wide to the Fairfield Road, so that these brigades should hopefully push the Iron Brigade and Cutler's Brigade along in the event that they're still coming up. Looks like Von Gleese is deploying here into line, so actually let's go ahead and play. So how about you guys not march in column formation right into your death? So we're going to form up in line here. So we've got Rhodes's brigade coming up. We've got Dole's and we've got Daniel's brigade, all of Rhodes's division, moving forward here against a division of Howard's Corps. Pender, meanwhile, is taking a big diversion to get down to that last objective there in the south. Are Early's troops moving? No? Why not? They've got the orders. Pretty sure he would have gotten the orders from Lee, too. This is the one frustrating thing, is because I can't tell Lee to go where I want him. Like, if I tell Lee to go anywhere, it basically tells the whole army to go there. So it's a little bit frustrating because I can't issue orders for Lee to ride north so he can give better orders to his subordinates because they're too far away. So you've got to keep an eye on where your commander is relative to the rest of your units, but you can't really effectively tell your commander where to go either. All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and jump in here and wrap this one up. This is the first part of our look at the Battle of Gettysburg and Grand Tactician, the Civil War. This will probably be a two-part episode. I don't think we'll be fighting days 2 and 3, and the game doesn't allow a mid-save point. This was taken from a live stream on my Twitch channel. So we'll probably only get through the first day, and then we'll have to wrap this thing up just because the battle would have ended up being like 6 hours if I had fought the entire thing. At the pace that the first day took, and unfortunately, when you move things up to like times 10 speed, your AI commanders start doing wonky things. You will just basically completely stop listening to me entirely, so maybe that's accurate, I don't know. Whereas Hill was pretty willing to follow my orders, regardless of whether I put him on like a defensive setting or an attacking setting. He just wouldn't stay in position where I wanted him to, even when I turned the AI off. So I ran into some problems there, and so it prevented me from being able to speed through things without the army just coming to pieces. So I did have to wrap up after the first day, but I do think the rest of the first day is a good fight. It is far from over. So tune in tomorrow for the next episode, and I hope you guys enjoy.